Thank you for listening to this episode of the Feldencast. I'm your host, Ethan Cowan. Hi all, welcome to the Feldencast, episode 19. 4, 3, 2, 1. That's the title. Not counting down to anything, but this lesson is based on AY16, 4 points. And actually this episode is like the first installment. I'm just doing the first half of AY16 in this lesson. Plus I added like a little bit that I thought was relevant. But yeah, I'll do the second half of AY16 either in the next episode or in the one after that. I'm not sure yet. I posted a little video of myself on my Facebook stories. It was like me doing a little piece of AY16, and another practitioner gave me some little tips on how to do it, which was pretty cool. And then he mentioned a lot of these early AY lessons are actually based on like judo groundwork that Feldenkrais was very familiar with based on all of his judo experience, before he started elaborating his own approach to movement learning, all that stuff. He was a really experienced judo practitioner and teacher. And I think my colleague was pointing out that a lot of these early lessons don't have a lot of frills. Like they're not all slowed down, chunked, very small so that people can easily understand them. There's like a lot of information really quickly. So I tried to go a little bit more slowly in this lesson, and that's why I chose to break it into 2. So I hope you enjoy. Here's 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, for this one, please start by standing. And please take a moment to get an impression of how it is to stand for you. How far apart are your 2 feet? Which directions are the feet pointing? And how do you feel in your legs and your arms and your spine? And if you feel your 2 feet touching the floor, get a sense of the area that the right foot covers, the area that the left foot covers. Okay, so that's an initial scan. We'll come back to that various points throughout. But now take yourself down to the floor and lie on your back for a moment. And lying on the floor, get a sense of the area of the floor that your body is covering. So in terms of area, it's a huge base of support that you have now. So you don't have to balance at all. You feel your legs, your arms, your back in this position. Okay, now roll yourself to one side or the other. And use your arms to help you come up to sitting, and then you come up to standing again. And standing on your 2 feet, whether you're conscious of it or not, you're balancing on a much smaller area of support compared to when you're lying down. So now do a movement where you put both of your hands on the floor in front of you. And this is not about like reaching down or touching your toes. It's about putting your hands on the floor somewhere where it's comfortable, so you can bend your knees as much as you need to, although you shouldn't squat. The pelvis should still be sort of high. And you've already tried some spot, but notice the first spot that you try and then any subsequent adjustments you make about where it's comfortable to have the hands on the floor in front of you. Okay, good. Now bring yourself back up to standing. So standing like this, you've got the 2 feet on the floor. There's a certain area covered by the right foot and the left foot. And now again, take yourself forward in a way you can put the right hand and the left hand both on the floor in front of you, somewhere relatively comfortable. And this time you put some weight into the hands so that the hands and the arms support you similarly to the legs supporting you. You might have to adjust where the hands are if they're going to take some of the weight. Okay, now do a movement where you lift both of the hands just a little bit away from the floor. You take the weight out of the hands. And then again, you put the hands on the floor and allow them to take some of the weight. And a few times like that, you lift the hands away from the floor and then you put them back down, let them take some weight. You feel how that's a movement in the pelvis, the back, the legs. Where do you feel that? Okay, good. Now lift the hands, bring yourself back up to standing, and just pause for a moment upright. And then again, put both of your hands on the floor so that you have 4 points or 4 areas of support. There's the right foot, the left foot, the right hand, and the left hand. And you don't want too much distance between the hands and the feet, but not too little distance. You find out if your head could hang comfortably. Okay, now do a movement where you lift the right hand a little bit away from the floor. And then you set it back down. And then do that a few times. So the right hand lifts from the floor. The other 3 areas of support are still supporting. So you go from 4 areas of support to 3 because the right hand lifts, and then back to 4. How do you do that in your back? How do you shift the weight so that the right arm is free to lift the right hand? Okay, now leave the right hand on the floor, switch over. So you unweight the left arm so the left hand can lift a little bit, and then you set it back down. And you do it a few times so you get a sense for how you shift the weight, how you move yourself to lift the left hand. Is it similar to how you did it with the right hand? Different? Okay, good. Now, again, lift both the right hand and the left hand at the same time. Just a little bit from the floor, and then you put them back on the floor. Pour the weight into the hands. So maybe you're going from 4 areas of support to 2, so the hands lift, and then back to 4. Okay, now bring yourself back up to standing. And now watch something. So you're going to lie on your back. Just watch the process whereby you get down onto the floor and then roll yourself onto your back. Okay, and now that you're on your back, just rest for a moment. Okay, now roll yourself to one side, come back up to sitting and then up to standing. And now again, go from these 2 areas of support, the feet, bring your hands down on the floor and make it into 4 areas of support. Okay, good. Now take the right foot a little bit away from the floor and then put it back down. And try it a few times. But notice this first couple times, what's your impulse or idea about what direction you want to take the foot away from the floor? You want to take it backwards behind you, bring it forward? What do you do? What's the easiest way for you to take the right foot a little bit away from the floor and then set it down? And remember the other 3 areas of support, the other foot and the 2 hands, are there, so you could shift the weight to make the right leg lighter. And then you try to distribute the weight evenly among the 4 points when the right foot is on the floor. And then maybe distribute it among the 3 areas while the right foot lifts. Okay, good. Now bring yourself up to standing for a brief pause. Trying to put a lot of pauses into the lesson because the point isn't to overcome a difficulty, but instead to feel how to do something. So whenever you get tired, you can take breaks, even if I don't say so, but hopefully I'm giving enough pause. Okay, so now put both hands onto the floor again, so you have 4 areas of support. And now shift the weight so you can lift the left leg, the left foot a little bit away from the floor and then set it back down. And over the course of a few attempts, you find out the easy way to do it, or at least progressively easier ways to do it. Okay, now how would you take both feet away from the floor at the same time? Would you have to hop? Could you pour the weight into the hands? What would you do? Okay, now go back to an earlier movement where you simply lighten both hands away from the floor, and then you replace them on the floor where they could take some weight and it's comfortable. Are you learning anything, either consciously or unconsciously? Feel any difference? Okay, great. Now bring yourself up to standing again. And now take a little break by walking around the room that you're in. Okay, now walk back to wherever you're going to continue the lesson and stand there for a moment. Now again, put your two hands on the floor, and the feet are there, so you have 4 areas that are supporting you. Good. And now take the right hand away from the floor and the left foot at the same time. Then put them both back down. So it means the left hand and the right foot continue to be supportive, and you find out how to lift the right hand and the left foot together and then set them back down a few times. You have a feeling for whether that's easy, whether it's hard, how you have to balance, what you have to do in the back, what direction you're going to lift the leg, what direction you want to lift the hand. Okay, good. Now go down onto your hands and your knees. Put your knees on the floor. And you have the tops of the feet on the floor, so the toes are extended, not standing on the toes anymore. And now in this position, lower to the ground. Now lift the left leg and the right hand. And I'm assuming it's easier with standing on the knee. So if it's easier, you have more attentional bandwidth. Feel what happens in the back. How do you coordinate this? What do you want to do with your head and your neck? Okay, good. Now come back up onto the 2 feet and the 2 hands on the floor. And again, try to lift the right hand and the left foot together. And notice if it got any easier or more clear. If there's any improvement, that's some sign that you learned something, either consciously or unconsciously. And if there's no improvement, then you didn't learn anything yet, but you're working on it. So now bring yourself back up to standing. Just pause again. Again, we're not trying to strengthen anything or get anything more flexible. We're trying to learn something, trying to clarify some relationships between different parts of ourselves. Okay, so now, again, put the 2 hands on the floor. So you have 4 areas of support. And now lift the left hand and the right foot away from the floor together. and then put them back on the floor together. And usually one diagonal relationship is like clearer than the other. So is this one clearer or less clear? Okay, now come down onto the hands and the knees. And continue, same relationship, the left hand lifting while the right leg lifts. So the left knee and the right hand are the supports that remain. And you could remember the breathing, you could forget the breathing. Okay, and then back up onto the 2 feet and the 2 hands. And you harvest, so you find out, did you learn anything? You lift the left hand and the right foot. Okay, now what would it be like if you tried to lift the left hand and the left foot? How would you do that? And then switch over, try lifting the right hand and the right foot together, putting them back down together. Okay, now leave it all alone, roll onto your back and rest lying down. Okay, great. Now, one more time, roll to one side, bring yourself up to sitting, up to standing. And again, bring yourself forward so you put both hands on the floor, both feet on the floor. And you just get them all positioned so that you're really supported by all 4 areas, the hands and the feet. And you see about letting the head hang comfortably, how you could breathe in this position. If this has changed at all since the first time you put your hands on the floor 20 minutes ago. And now again, try to take the right hand and the right foot both away from the floor together and set them back down together. And not to achieve that, but to try to get creative with it, feel what you would do in the spine anywhere else. And then switch over, try to take the left hand, the left foot both away from the floor together and then back down. And go back to something from earlier. So you just simply take the right hand and the left hand away from the floor together. And then replace them, pour some weight into them. And then how would you take both feet away from the floor at the same time together? The head could still be hanging. Okay, now come back up to standing. Bring yourself up and just pause for a moment upright. And now, one more time, take your hands down in front of you, place them on the floor where you could support yourself. 4 areas of support. And now, very slowly, start to consider, from this position, how would you pour all the weight into your left leg? So that means that I'm asking you to consider it, not do it. But that would mean that the right foot and the 2 hands, maybe, could all leave the floor at the same time as you pour the weight into the left leg and the left foot. So you go from 4 areas of support to 1 area of support, and then back to 4 in your imagination, or consider it. And then switch over, so you imagine with the right foot being the one that stays. Everything else could lift together. Okay, now bring yourself up, bring yourself to standing. And simply stand for a moment. Feel the base of support, the 2 feet, the areas that are covered. And now, without doing it, start to just think about taking a step forward. So it means you're imagining that you're just about to take a step, you're preparing. And there's probably quite a bit to observe just in the preparation. The muscles getting ready. And then when you're ready, allow yourself to very gradually actually enact taking a step. And then once you've taken a step, you can either do it again, watch yourself prepare to take a step for a little bit, or you could start to walk. Either way, you could feel that you're shifting from one area of support to another, either at normal speed or very slowly. And then once you're satisfied, you can decide for yourself when the lesson is over. Thanks again for listening to this episode of the Feldencast. If you'd like to reach out and say hello, please do. You can email me at ethan@feldencast.com. I offer the Feldencast in a spirit of transparent generosity. If you have enjoyed your experience, and if you want to give back, please check out the Patreon page. It's patreon.com/Feldencast. Right now, this podcast is just a baby. We have, on average, 10, 12 listeners per episode. So if you'd like to help the Feldencast grow, please share this episode or any other episode that you've enjoyed, especially with family and friends. Thanks again for listening. I'm really enjoying this project, and I hope you are too.